Hi, my name is Reece, and this is my personal literacy project. That's me. A little about myself. In October 1979, my twin sister and I were born to a Polynesian mother and a black father. Now, my mother's father was from a different time, so having black children in his home was unacceptable by his standards, and this meant that my mother was no longer welcome in her parents' home. Looking back on my mother's experience, I realized how that circumstance impacted how she raised us. It really shaped our cultural literacy in that the world is diverse and we could grow from that. And even though my mother knew that it would be hard to support us, she did all she could for us and loved us unconditionally. When I was about 3, my mother took us to see the Smurfs on ice. I remember how every child in the arena smiled and laughed when I did. It was an event that made me feel connected to the rest of the world. Global literacy, if you will. In that all the children knew what I knew. Our favorite cartoons come to life. Gargamel and the power of evil, and Papa Smurf with the power of good. To feel like everyone understood that at the age of 3 was amazing to me. And I think that's probably a good starting point in knowing what began to shape my personal literacy. Growing up with a single mom, I remember how my mother, after working all day, would teach me colors using socks from the laundry, sort of multitasking her way through raising twins at 22, without a father for us and none of her own. We learned how to read much like people did before Christ era, so it was see then say and associate letters with pictures and words, normally using some item around the house like C is for chair or cat. So every day was something new to learn. In fact, because of our circumstances, we learned to cook at a very young age, 7 I think. Mostly because my mom worked late and we couldn't very well eat at 9 o'clock at night. We learned to cook good too, not just boiling water, but things like spaghetti and meatballs. She'd always say something like, make it more round or make a circle. And of course, math was involved. We had to make sure things tasted good, so we used measuring cups. We did bacon and eggs and rice too. Usually each cooking lesson was riddled with literacy, even cookies and Rice Krispie treats, cut out with cookie cutters, hearts, moons, and stars, and so on. Learning was a part of life, and Mom made it fun. My literacy was not a matter of privilege or inheritance from a wealthy family member. It was from common sense and what was afforded to us at the time. And most often than not, we struggled to make ends meet. And finally, there was nothing left to do but ask for help. When my grandmother came into the picture, our literacy changed. She's the matriarch of the family, after all. She didn't really have a sense of quit or can't. She was taught at a very young age, you did until the work was done. And that's what she taught us. For such a tiny little woman of 4'6", she had a disciplinary reach of 11 feet. So needless to say, our comprehensive and visual literacy came along with her discipline. But most of all, she taught us functional literacy. Her goal and object was to make sure that we could clean, go to school, and of course sleep, in that order. As years went on, my sister and I learned through informational literacy by going to school. I learned to refine myself by participating in activities, and eventually we moved back to the West Coast. Fast forwarding to a more present circumstance, it was time for me to now show how reading, writing, doing, and experiencing things in my childhood shaped me as an adult, and I got married, unlike my mother, and my children had a father, so my support comes from within my household. And like my mother, I teach my children with the See and Say method, and I instill comprehensive and visual literacy, much like my grandmother did. They also learned to pass it on to their siblings. I worked hard to show my children functional literacy by earning a living, but most of all, I engage my children in learning. I challenge their minds and I make literacy fun. When things get hard, I think of what my grandmother used to say. There is no such thing as quit or can't. So I could create opportunities. And even though I'm older now and my kids are all in school, that doesn't stop me from going back to the basics of reading, writing, doing, and experiencing, because I think that these things all play a part in uniting us. I suppose in a nutshell, my personal literacy helped me to never give up, be grateful for diversity, always ask for help, and pass it on. Thanks for watching.